How often do we hear the advice of just listen to your body? Sometimes it's great advice and sometimes it's not. This advice can be something that is keeping you stuck with recurring injuries, flare-ups, setbacks, especially if it's been something that you've been dealing with for a very long time. The just listen to your body advice probably isn't going to work for you. What does listening to your body actually mean? Well, most people take it as if it hurts, stop doing that thing. That's the basis of what this saying is built around. It means avoid pain, stop when things are uncomfortable. If you're not sure, don't push it too hard, and just wait until things feel perfect before we really start to go for it in training. These are usually a problem because it promotes inconsistent training exposure, promote underloading of a tissue or just your body in general, and over time it's going to cause loss of tolerance, which is why we tend to then float back into training and have these recurring issues flare up over and over again. People often forget that there's a difference to just reacting to pain or discomfort or injury, or intelligently looking at what's in front of them and objectively making a decision. You don't need to obey every single signal that your body sends your way. You just need to understand why it is potentially there and then what you need to do about it to have a good outcome. When listening to your body can go wrong is when we have recurring issues. We often have what's an overprotective nervous system. So your body goes into a state of overprotection. So if we take a step back, the human body was built for survival. Every mechanism that's in there under subconscious control is trying to help you survive so you can continue on tomorrow. When we're in pain, this protective state is important because it stops us potentially getting further injured. If you've watched a previous video of mine, you'd see that pain doesn't always necessarily indicate injury, but in a sense of being injured, when we're in this protective mode, sometimes that can get taken out of proportion and we're in this overly sensitive situation. When we're in this situation, suddenly what would usually be considered a minor threat has become this really big threat to the system, and it reacts in what it thinks is an appropriate way to that, and suddenly you're finding that this small stimulus is causing a really big pain response. If all you do in this situation is avoid the stimulus, then you're just reacting to this overprotective nervous system, and you're going to probably miss out on the stimulus that your body actually needs to progress and calm down and reduce that level of sensitivity. And the perfect example of this is someone, say, with a tendinopathy in their knee. So that tendon in their knee has flared up, it hurts to put any load on the knee, and then when you come into the training session and you say you're going to do some static holds because we want to slowly expose that knee to some static exercise, as soon as you start putting that static load into the knee, it suddenly hurts, and if you back off that, you'll find that the sensitivity isn't going away. That nervous system is trying to protect that tissue. But if you slowly expose the knee to that static load, you'll find that that sensitivity tends to drop, and then you're not going to have the same level of pain for the same level of force output. And that's simply just the case of your nervous system saying, hey, this actually is safe. We don't have to be causing this level of pain for this level of force output. So let's just calm down and allow that tissue to start doing a little bit of work. So if you're someone who will stop every time something gets a little bit sore, or you skip sessions because something hurts too much, or you're going to avoid movements that just feel completely unfamiliar to you, you're keeping yourself in this state of fragility, you're lowering your tolerance over time, and you're enhancing your fear of movement. And all of these things are going to just cause a negative outcome, and they're going to keep your system sensitized. So when is listening to your body actually good advice, and what should you do with that advice and reframe it to suit your situation? The better questions to ask yourself are the following. Is the pain stable or is the pain escalating? Does this pain settle within 24 to 48 hours, post-training. Is this a predictable thing? Is the pain predictable? Is the potential loss in function predictable? And on a longer time scale, say weeks to months, am I improving or am I staying static or am I getting worse? These are all questions where you're interpreting and objectively looking at outcomes. You're not just making rash decisions based on emotion and how things feel at the time. You're not ignoring things, you're just taking the data and using it appropriately. So I want you to be introduced to this idea of what we call strategic discomfort. So this is an important concept to note because I don't want you to avoid pain 100% of the time. If you avoided pain 100% of the time, you'll never get anywhere. No one has ever had 100% pain-free lives or training histories. And if you're expecting it to be that way, then it's just unrealistic and you're probably going to have a bad time. Your ability to progress is driven by training stress. So you need a level of training stress to actually progress in the right direction. And when exposure to a training stimulus is appropriate, you're going to recover from that, and then your tolerance is going to go up. Now make sure you take my advice for what it is, because if you take this out of context and start thinking, oh, well, whenever I feel pain, it doesn't matter anymore, I'm just going to push through. That is incorrect. If you go back and watch the pain video I put together a couple of weeks ago, you will see in there that what is an appropriate amount of pain to work through and what is not. You're not going to be pushing through absolutely everything. That's not appropriate. You're not going to use this to ignore any potential red flags that come up, and you're not going to start thinking that you're an absolute hero because you can just push through every time your body hurts. You need to think of this as structured exposure and thoughtful progress over time. All of these concepts are really important because you need to be thinking about it on a longer time scale. Like I said before, it's not how do I feel today and how will I feel tomorrow. It's how am I feeling at the moment. Yes, that's important, but it's also important how are you feeling over that week, and then how do those weeks string together into months and potentially even years if this is something that's really long term for you. So instead of asking yourself, is my body feeling perfect today? Because the answer is probably always going to be no. You need to start thinking, is this manageable? Can I recover from this? And is this training stimulus appropriate for me to start building up my capacity over time? You have to remember that your body is not here to sabotage you. It simply just wants to survive. And if we can promote an appropriate adaptation with an appropriate stimulus, sometimes it just takes pushing through a little bit of pain or discomfort to get us there, so we can raise that tolerance to an appropriate level so your tissues can take more loading over time. Thanks again, guys. Please comment below if you would like to discuss anything further. If you like, share and subscribe, I would highly appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in that next video.